How do you feel about the Federal Reserve's push to create a central bank digital currency?
You can have a lot of control over people with a digital currency. You don't pay your taxes, they don't like your political stance, what have you. Flip a switch and we're just going to lock up your money. So from that aspect, it's extremely scary.
Gold prices have jumped 8% since the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. Yeah, the precious metal passed $2,000 per ounce last week, traded at 21 cents below its all-time high. Investors have been flocking to gold as a safe haven with a lot of the banking turmoil that's going on and weighing on other assets. But the rest of the world is saying to themselves, why should we hold on to the dollar? Countries like Iran and Russia and China have begun the process of de-dollarization. What will that mean for gold prices and for our economy? Joining us now to discuss is Kevin Demeritt of Lear Capital. He is the founder of Lear Capital and is joining us live right now. Good morning, Kevin. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, Austin. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've kind of had threats overseas for decades about the process of moving away from the petrodollar. China, Russia, Iran, our enemies have always sort of threatened to do something like this, but it's actually starting to happen now. Can you talk to us about this?
Yeah, I think it really started with Russia about 5 or 6 years ago. They started to move away from the dollar, started accumulating gold. And then China, Iran, a lot of these other countries, Brazil, have seemed to follow now. So I think because of inflation, because of our $1 trillion yearly deficits, people just outside the country are looking at it saying, would I rather hold some currency that's going down in value, or I'd rather hold something, physical and tangible that can offset the inflation that we have here in the United States. So that's what they're doing, and they're doing it at a fairly rapid pace. Matter of fact, last year was a record pace. They purchased over 1,100 tons, which is about a quarter of all of the mining supply of the world. So we're really starting to see the acceleration of, getting rid of dollars and moving over to something else, gold being one of those something else's.
And it's not just our enemies overseas. It's actually starting to spread to Europe. I was reading over the last week that Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, was saying that Europe might be too dependent on dollars. So we can't even necessarily count on our allies, can we?
No, I think everybody's kind of in the same boat. If you're holding dollars and the inflation rate is 5%, let's say, would you rather hold on to those dollars and lose 5% of purchasing power a year, or move over to something tangible that actually offsets the rate of inflation? So it doesn't really matter. This has nothing to do with, hey, we're allies, we're enemies. This is more about just fiscal responsibility. And if in the United States we were holding on to somebody else's currency that was losing value at 5 or 7% a year, hopefully a politician would make the right decision, if possible, to get rid of that and move over to something that's going to be more fiscally sound.
Is it realistic to think though, I mean, with China's policies and the instability of their own currency, that they would actually be successful in trading oil in I don't know how to pronounce it, yen or yuan, not quite sure. Maybe you can fill
One,
us
yeah.
in.
For them, it's just much more convenient. A lot of countries have to take their currency, move it into US dollars, purchase oil, purchase all the commodities, quite frankly. And if you don't have to go through that mess, then it's much easier for everybody to, have free trade. So that's what a lot of countries are doing, especially China. We're having a little bit of issues with, Saudi Arabia, and they walk over there and put some plans together for oil trade in their currency. And the more that that happens, the less dependent those countries are on the US dollar, and our US dollar falls even further. And if you get a fall in the US dollar on top of the inflation, there could be a real mess in the economy later on this year. That's why I think a lot of people are talking about, one of the reasons a lot of people are talking about recession.
I'm reading this morning on Reuters this headline: Gold rebounds as U.S. inflation data boosts Fed rate hike pause bet. So essentially, what we're saying here is that gold was starting to slack a bit, but it is coming back stronger because of what's happening over at the Federal Reserve. And with the debt ceiling fight that's going on right now, the economic instability and the bank failures that are occurring across the country right now, there's probably never been a better time to say, hey, it's time to hedge our bets and get into the gold market. Wouldn't you agree?
Well, yeah, I think the Fed is just absolutely trapped right now. If these bank failures that we've seen were back in 2008, we would be hearing a lot of talk about the Fed lowering interest rates and printing money like we did when we saw AIG and some of the other failures back in 2008. But they can't do that right now. Or inflation, if they were going to print out money and lower interest rates, would zoom to 15%, just like we saw in the late 70s. So they hold off as long as possible. A few more institutions, and in my opinion, the commercial real estate market's in a horrible mess and caused some of the banking crisis. You know, those big institutions start to break, and then the really tough decisions are going to have to be made, and investors need to get prepared, for that later on this year, because I think that's exactly where we're headed.
How do you feel about the Federal Reserve's push to create a central bank digital currency, essentially an electronic currency, something like a Bitcoin, but instead controlled by the Fed? What do you think about that?
Yeah, they don't like Bitcoin for individuals, but they want to go create one for themselves. And I understand why. You can have a lot of control over people with a digital currency. You don't pay your taxes. They don't like your political stance, what have you. Flip a switch, and we're just going to lock up your money. So from that aspect, it's extremely scary. From another aspect, hey, look, you don't have to carry around, paper dollars, and they don't have to print the paper dollars. I get their side of it, but from a privacy standpoint, we've lost a lot of privacy over the past 10 or 15 years. That's just another big one from the financial side that I don't really think people want to lose.
A lot of my friends, Kevin, who were big into Bitcoin and trying to get me into Dogecoin and trying to get me this coin and that coin. I mean, I admit that I do have some Bitcoin, but I don't mess with a lot of the other altcoins. Have come to me in recent months and said, Austin, what is the phone number for Lear Capital? Because at the end of the day, there's really nothing like the security of actually holding physical metals. Am I wrong?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of the Bitcoin people, quite frankly, with the volatility that we saw over the past 6 or 7 months we're starting to get, a younger group of people giving us a phone call and saying, hey, look, I own Bitcoin, I own some of these altcoins, and we want to move over to something a little bit more tangible just because of the volatility. So, gold has a 5,000-year track record, and Bitcoin has what, a 12-year track record, 10-year track record. Big difference. And I think that's going to show up when you get a lot of volatility in the market. Gold's going to shine a little bit brighter right now, especially with the government, and all the rules and regulations that they're trying to place on Bitcoin. Nobody really knows what's going to go on there. So again, just the stability of 5,000 years as money, and then the central bank still using it as money, I think kind of give it a little bit better track record.
Yeah, for sure. What's funny is that we advertise Lear Capital's excellent financial services here on the Wake Up America show, and we get great feedback from many of the guests on the show who come on. They hear me talking about what Lear Capital is doing, and our friend, one of our guests, BX Bullet, bought some gold from Lear Capital last week, and she was telling me about how easy it was to acquire the physical metals, how fast it was, and some of the benefits that she was offered, which my wife and I had a really interesting conversation with one of your sales representatives as well when we were talking about getting into a gold IRA. And he was talking about physical metals, if you decided to purchase and acquire them and hold them on your person rather than hold them in an IRA account, is the taxing when it comes to buying and sell. Lear Capital, let's say if I were to purchase some gold and silver from Lear today, I can actually sell that back to you at any time if I wanted. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, you just give us a phone call. We lock in the pricing prior to you sending the metal, so you know exactly what you're going to receive before you ever send the metal back to us. And then if you keep the box that we send the metals to you in, then it's real easy. We send you another label, cover the insurance back to us. Takes a few days to get back to us, and then just either a bank wire or a check back to you. So very easy to sell. But again, people have to remember this is a physical metal. It isn't a stock, so you can't just click a button and get your money
Yeah.
back into your account.
Yeah, no, I know, I get it, but my wife and I, we're kind of paranoid and we like the idea of holding on to physical metals. We don't trust the government, we don't trust the banks, and with all of these bank collapses that are going on, it's made us very nervous. My buddy John Miltimore, he's the managing editor over at the Foundation of Economic Education. He hit me up the other day and he's like, "Austin, I need that Lear Capital number," which I'm definitely going to be giving away here at the end of this segment, but I wanted to give you an opportunity. Kevin, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners before we let you go and before I share all the goods on how they can get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, I think just people really need to think about, getting prepared for what's coming. Janet Yellen said the Fed will need great skill and good luck to bring down inflation. Well, some of the skill and luck has been tossed off to the side because you really have to think about, the possibilities of a recession later on this year. 2008 started with AIG and a few others where the government bailed them out, and the same thing's going to happen here. It's the same script. We're going to help a few of these banks get bailed out, and then later on, maybe not, and some of the other larger companies. So people just need to get prepared and get educated on what's happening in the economy.
Yeah, for sure. And I know people have a lot of questions, Kevin, that we don't have time to get into today. So that's why I'm going to give them the phone number here as soon as I let you go. Kevin, thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for your sponsorship of the Wake Up America show. Keep up the great work over there at Lear Capital. We look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
Glad to be back on, Austin. Have a great day.
Yeah, you as well. If you like Kevin Demeritt, let us know. Here's the phone number for Lear Capital. It's 1-800-885-2175. That's 1-800-885-2175. I know you've got a lot of questions that need to get answered. We just unfortunately don't have time for all of it. But I want to remind you that it's never been easier to sink some of your assets into gold and silver because the security I tell you what, you can buy gold and silver, but the security that you get is even more valuable. I'm sick and tired of putting my money into all of these risky stocks and then it's just exploded the next day. My wife and I are now looking at the long term and we're saying to ourselves, we need something that's going to maintain value. We've got money set aside. It's losing value to inflation. If you're holding cash right now, you may say to yourself, well, I'm just going to hold on to my cash. I'm not going to invest it. I'm not going to save it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to keep it in a mattress. The more the Federal Reserve prints, the more they're stealing value from you, right? But if you put it into gold, gold will slowly increase in value over time. It's shown it time and time again. Give them a call, 1-800-885-2175 today. Tell them Austin Petersen sent you, or visit learaustin.com. They will send you a free gold and silver information packet. All your questions will be answered right there. learaustin.com.